स्वरूपा साई,
सर्वधर्म स्वरूपा साई,
सर्वधर्म स्वरूपा साई,
सर्वधर्म स्वरूपा साई।
परती के अवतारा,
परती के अवतारा,
परती के अवतारा,
परती के अवतारा।
मेरे बाबा मेरे साई,
मेरे बाबा मेरे साई,
मेरे बाबा मेरे साई,
मेरे बाबा मेरे साई।
साई राम साई राम साई राम साई राम,
साई राम साई राम साई राम, साई राम,
साई राम साई राम साई राम साई राम,
साई राम साई राम साई राम।
हिंदू मुस्लिम ईसाई आते हैं तेरे द्वारे,
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 मिलते हैं तेरे द्वारे,
मिलते हैं तेरे द्वारे,
मिलते हैं तेरे द्वारे,
मिलते हैं तेरे द्वारे।
साई राम साई राम साई राम साई राम,
साई राम साई राम साई राम, साई राम,
साई राम साई राम साई राम साई राम साई राम
साई राम साई राम,
सर्वधर्म स्वरूपा साई,
सर्वधर्म स्वरूपा साई,
परती के अवतारा,
परती के अवतारा।
मेरे बाबा मेरे साई,
मेरे बाबा मेरे साई,
साई राम साई राम साई राम साई राम,
साई राम साई राम साई राम।
हिंदू मुस्लिम ईसाई आते हैं तेरे द्वारे,
हिंदू मुस्लिम ईसाई आते हैं तेरे द्वारे,
मिलते हैं तेरे द्वारे,
मिलते हैं तेरे द्वारे।
साई राम साई राम साई राम साई राम,
साई राम साई राम साई राम,
साई राम साई राम साई राम साई राम,
साई राम साई राम साई राम,
सर्वधर्म
Okay, and I hope that you caught those first few bhajans on Mahashivaratri. It is Lord Shiva's day today, and many millions of Hindus will consider this day an absolute significant event in their lives, and it's an absolute treat to dedicate this entire program to Lord Shiva today. And I'm really excited doing it because there's so many things that that we can share about Lord Shiva and Hinduism in this very program that we don't know much about. We are going to be doing a learning experience here today, and I hope that all of you are going to be joining me because it's a wonderful way of spreading good cheer. And today is a highly significant night for all Hindus, and we should be starting to understand what the symbolism is behind Lord Shiva's form, because a lot of people ask questions about that. But it's Ini, and the show is called All Things Considered. We are considering Lord Shiva today and Mahashivaratri today, and I just hope that everybody is going to be be granted their boons and desires, because that's what it's all about, the spiritualism, connecting, and people obviously want back some blessings for this evening. And what are the sacrifices they will make? Well, we'll share that a little bit, and a little later we have a special guest in the studio who's going to be talking about the spiritual aspect of Mahashivaratri today. But we're going to continue with some music, and we have some brilliant music in store for you and all sorts of bhajans. So I just hope that you guys are going to be listening in, and we are going to be enjoying it next. Shiva Tandava Stotram.
गद्गद्गद्गज्ज्वल धनञ्जयाहुतीकृत प्रचण्ड पञ्चसायके धराधरेन्द्र नन्दिनी कुचाग्रचित्रपत्रकार कल्पनैकशिल्पिनी त्रिलोचने रतिर्मम नवीनमेघमण्डली निरुद्ध दुर्धरस्फुरद्भूनिशीतिनी तम प्रबन्धबद्धकन्दर निलिम्ब निर्झरीधरस्तनोतु कृत्तिसिन्धुर कलानिधानबन्धुर श्रियं जगद्दुरन्दर प्रफुल्लनीलपङ्कज प्रपञ्चकालिमप्रभावलम्बिकण्टकन्दली रुचिप्रबद्धकन्दरं स्मरच्चिदं पुरच्चिदं भवच्चिदं मखच्चिदं गजच्चिदान्धकच्चिदं तमन्तकच्चिदं भजे अखर्व सर्वमङ्गला कलाकदम्बमञ्जरी रसप्रवाहमाधुरी विजृम्भणा मधुव्रतं स्मरान्तकं पुरान्तकं भवान्तकं मखान्तकं गजान्तकान्तकान्तकं तमन्तकान्तकं भजे प्रभद्भुजङ्गमश्वस विनिर्गमत्क्रमस्फुरत्करालभालहव्यवादिमिद्दिमिद्दिमिद्वनन् मृदङ्गतुङ्गमङ्गल वनिक्रमप्रवर्तित प्रचण्डताण्डव शिव त्रिशद्विचक्रकल्पयोर्भुजङ्गमौक्तिकस्रजो गरिष्ठरत्नलोष्टयो सुहृद्विपक्षपक्षयो धरारविन्दचक्षुषो प्रजामहि महेन्द्रयो समप्रवृत्तिवत्कदा सदा शिवं वन्द्यहम् शिरस्तमञ्जलिं वहन्ति लोललोललोचनोललामबाललग्नका शिवेति मन्त्रमुच्चरन् कदा सुखी भवाम्यहम् इमं हि नित्यमेव मुक्तमुत्तमोत्तमं स्तवं पठन् स्मरन् ब्रुवन् नरो विशुद्धिमेति सन्ततं हरे गुरौ सुभक्तिमाशु याति नान्यथा गतिं विमोहनं हि देहिनाप्सु शङ्करस्य चिन्तनं विमोहनं हि देहिनाप्सु शङ्करस्य चिन्तनम्
And welcome again, and it's Ini and the Radio Capital Radio. We are broadcasting all the way from South Africa and sunny Durban. And if you are tuning in to the program today, we have a special enlightening program on Mahashivaratri, and a very happy Mahashivaratri to one and all of you on the day that we celebrate the significance of and pray to Lord Shiva, which is the supreme being and the supreme divine power of all Hindus in the world. So millions of Hindus will all be turning their heads towards Lord Shiva today. So Om Sai Ram, Namaste, Vanakkam, Hare Krishna, Hari Om, and welcome to the program. So do we actually know the significance of the symbolism of Lord Shiva's form? And that's what we're going to be talking about today. And later on, we are going to be sharing our spiritual message with Professor Pubalin Pillay, who's going to join us in the studio and talk to us about the significance of Mahashivaratri and its spiritual significance. But, we are going to be talking about all the accessories on Lord Shiva today. There are many, many deities, Hindu deities, and the question arises, about the special dress, and why is it that they carry certain accessories? Why is it they dressed a certain way? And what are all those little items around them? You know, they have many, many items that they carry in many of their hands, and why the 10 hands, and, you know, lots of questions around Hindu deities. And, you know, today we are going to be doing the significance of Lord Shiva's form, and why does he have the crescent moon on his head, and you know, why does he have the damaru, which is the you know, the little drum that he carries, and what is the symbol of that, and symbolism of that, and what is the significance of the serpent around Lord Shiva's neck, that little snake that you see around his neck, and everybody wants to know. But why is he having a snake around his head? And what is that, you know, the trident or that stick that he carries, that metal stick? So we're going to talk about that. Very, very exciting things that we are going to be doing today. And we are going to be sharing Lord Shiva's bhajans and songs for this morning. But anyway, welcome, and I just hope that you are going to stay with me till 12 o'clock until we have Professor Pubalan Pillai. He's going to join us around 11:15, so be sure to tune in then if you don't have time now. But we are going to be going on with bhajans, and it's Shiva Maheshwara next on the program.
Shiva Maheshwara, Shiva Maheshwara, Shiva Maheshwara, Sai Ram. Shiva Maheshwara, Shiva Maheshwara, Shiva Maheshwara, Sai Ram. Shiva Maheshwara, Shiva Maheshwara, Shiva Maheshwara, Sai Ram. Shankara, Shiva Mahadeva, Sai Ram. Shiva Maheshwara, Shiva Shankara, Shiva Mahadeva, Sai Ram. Shiva Maheshwara, Shiva Shankara, Shiva Mahadeva, Sai Ram. Shiva Maheshwara, Shiva Shankara, Shiva Mahadeva. Baba Sai Deva, Shiva Maheshwara, Shiva Maheshwara, Shiva Maheshwara, Sai Ram. Shiva Maheshwara, Shiva Maheshwara, Shiva Maheshwara, Sai Ram. Shiva Maheshwara, Shiva Shankara, Shiva Mahadeva, Sai Ram. Shiva Maheshwara, Shiva Shankara, Shiva Mahadeva, Sai Ram. Kailasavasa Mahadeva, Kailasavasa Mahadeva, Jagadishwara Hara Mahadeva, Jagadishwara Hara Mahadeva, Tribhuvana Pal Baba Sai Deva, Tribhuvana Pal Baba Sai Deva, Tribhuvana Pal Baba Sai Deva, Tribhuvana Pal Baba Sai Deva. Shiva Maheshwara, Shiva Maheshwara, Shiva Maheshwara, Sai Ram.
हरि ओम नमः शिवाय हरि ओम नमः शिवाय शिव शिव शंकर हर परमेश्वर साईश्वराय नमः
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 हरि ओम नमः शिवाय
नमः शिवाय
शिव शिव शंकर हर परमेश्वर साईश्वराय नमः
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 हरि ओम नमः शिवाय
शंभो शंकरा शिव शंभो शंकरा
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 शंभो शंकर सांब सदा 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 शिव शंभो शंकरा
पर्ती नायका परमेशा पाहि
नायका परमेशा पाहि
पर्ती नायका परमेशा पाहि
नायका परमेशा पाहि
पर्ती नायका परमेशा पाहि
नायका परमेशा पाहि
शंभो शंकर सांब सदा शिव शंभो शंकरा
शंभो शंकर सांब सदा
शङ्करा
शम्भो शङ्कर साम्ब सदा शिव शम्भो शङ्करा
शम्भो शङ्करा शिव शम्भो शङ्करा
शम्भो शङ्करा शिव शम्भो शङ्करा
शम्भो शङ्कर साम्ब सदा शिव शम्भो शङ्करा
शम्भो शङ्कर साम्ब सदा शिव शम्भो शङ्करा
पर्तिनायका परमेशा पाहि माम्
पर्तिनायका परमेशा पाहि माम्
पर्तिनायका परमेशा पाहि माम्
पर्तिनायका परमेशा पाहि माम्
शम्भो शङ्कर साम्ब सदा शिव शम्भो शङ्करा
शम्भो शङ्कर साम्ब सदा शिव शम्भो शङ्करा
शम्भो शङ्कर साम्ब सदा शिव शम्भो शङ्करा
शम्भो शङ्कर साम्ब सदा शिव शम्भो शङ्करा शम्भो शङ्करा शिव शम्भो शङ्करा
ॐ नमः शिवाय शिवाय नमः 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 ॐ नमः शिवाय शिवाय नमः
Good morning and welcome to our Mahashivratri program, and I hope that you all are well and enjoying the bhajans. We are going to be talking about the significance of Mahashivratri and Lord Shiva, so stay with us.
शिव शिव हर हर हराय नमो हर हर शिव शिव शिवाय नमो शिव शिव हर हर हराय नमो हर हर शिव शिव शिवाय नमो हर हर महादेवा 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 ॐ नमः शिवाय शिवाय नमः 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 डम 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 डमरू बाजे डम 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 डमरू बाजे डम 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 डमरू बाजे डम 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 डमरू बाजे धिमितक धिमितक मृदंग बाजे धिमितक मृदंग बाजे धिमितक धिमितक मृदंग बाजे धिमितक मृदंग बाजे हर हर महादेवा हर हर महादेवा हर हर महादेवा हर हर महादेवा शिव हर हर हराय नमो हर हर शिव शिव शिवाय नमो
शिव शिव हर हर हराय नमो हर हर शिव शिव शिवाय नमो
हर हर महादेवा हर हर महादेवा
हर हर महादेवा हर हर महादेवा
हर हर महादेवा हर हर महादेवा
हर हर महादेवा
ओम नमः शिवाय शिवाय नमो ओम नमः शिवाय शिवाय नमो
ओम नमः शिवाय शिवाय नमो ओम नमः शिवाय शिवाय नमो
डम 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 डमरू बाजे
डम डम डमरू बाजे
धिमि तक मृदंग बाजे
धिमितक मृदंग बाजे
हर हर महादेवा हर हर महादेवा
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 ओम नमः शिवाय शिवाय नमः ओम नमः शिवाय शिवाय नमः
Lord Shiva. Who is Lord Shiva? And this is a question that is on everybody's lips today, because a lot of people, even non-Hindus, will be asking this question, because obviously hearing about this is the most significant day for Lord Shiva. It's Lord Shiva's day today, Mahashivaratri. And this is when millions of Hindus will visit the temple and do prayers and offer Lord Shiva their, their utmost devotion tonight. So who is Lord Shiva? And Shiva is regarded as one of the three in the Hindu triumvirate. And the triumvirate consists of three gods who are responsible for creation, upkeep, and destruction of all evil. And the other two gods are Brahma and Vishnu. And Lord Shiva is the supreme Lord and is worshipped as the supreme Lord. Brahma is the creator of the universe, whilst Vishnu is the preserver of the universe. And Lord Shiva doesn't destroy the universe, but he destroys evil. Mankind manifests with evil tendencies, and Lord Shiva is there to destroy those qualities. So Hindus all over the world believe in his powers of destruction and recreation, and are used even now to destroy illusions and imperfections in this world, and paving the way, obviously, for a beneficial change for mankind. And it is believed by all Hindus that Lord Shiva himself can come down to earth as a human being and live amongst the people if things get pretty bad and man is way off the good path, and he can come down and literally to help elevate souls in our world, in our universe. So according to Hindu belief, this destruction is not arbitrary, but it is a constructive destruction. Shiva is therefore seen as the source of both good and evil, and it is very difficult for many to grasp this concept of being both, and is regarded as well as the one who combines the many contradictory elements. But Shiva is known to have untamed passion, which leads him to extremes in behavior. And the opposite of Shiva and the angry form of Shiva is Rudra. And we also also pay penance to Rudra as well. And sometimes, Shiva is an ascetic and abstaining from all worldly pleasures, and is constantly in a form of meditation. And, and it is Shiva's relationship with his wife Parvati which brings him balance. Their union allows him, within the bounds of marriage to Parvati, to do that. And Hindus who worship Shiva as their primary god are members of the Saivism sect. But you also have the Vaishnavites who also worship Shiva, but not on a total plane. They will also worship Brahma and Vishnu and their consorts. But Saivism is a pure form of worship of only Lord Shiva. And we're going to be talking about, the symbolism of the, different accessories, you can call it, or little objects that we see around Lord Shiva, because, often people would say, but how come I'm seeing these little objects around Lord Shiva's neck, and why is he carrying a trident? And we are going to be talking about that as well, and a little bit more about Lord Shiva as well in his other representations and forms. Well, welcome to my show, and we are going on with Shiva Bhajans today, so happy Mahashivratri to all.
Ganga
अरुणाचल शिव अरुणाचल शिव अरुणाचल शिव अरुण शिवा
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 अक्षयलिंगा आत्मलिंगा
अक्षयलिंगा आत्मलिंगा
अक्षयलिंगा आत्मलिंगा
अक्षयलिंगा आत्मलिंगा
तेजोमय विग्रहलिंगा
तेजोमय विग्रहलिंगा
तेजोमय विग्रहलिंगा
तेजोमय विग्रहलिंगा
इह पर सुखदायका ईशा इह पर सुखदायका
इह पर सुखदायका ईशा इह पर सुखदायका
इह पर सुखदायका साई इह पर सुखदायका
इह पर सुखदायका साई इह पर सुखदायका
अरुणाचल शिव अरुणाचल शिव अरुणाचल शिव अरुण शिवा
अरुणाचल शिव अरुणाचल शिव अरुणाचल शिव अरुण शिवा
अक्षयलिंगा आत्मलिंगा
अक्षयलिंगा आत्मलिंगा
तेजोमय विग्रहलिंगा
तेजोमय विग्रहलिंगा
इह पर सुखदायका ईशा इह पर सुखदायका
इह पर सुखदायका ईशा इह पर सुखदायका
इह पर सुखदायका साई इह पर सुखदायका
इह पर सुखदायका साई इह पर सुखदायका
ॐ नमः शिवाय शिवाय नमः
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 अरुणाचल शिव अरुणाचल शिव अरुणाचल शिव अरुण शिवा
शम्भो शङ्करा शिव शम्भो शङ्करा
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 शम्भो शङ्कर साम्ब सदा 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 शिव शम्भो शङ्करा
पर्तिनायका परमेशा पाहि माम्
नायका परमेशा पाहि माम्
पर्तिनायका परमेशा पाहि माम्
नायका परमेशा पाहि माम्
पर्तिनायका परमेशा पाहि माम्
नायका परमेशा पाहि माम्
शम्भो शङ्कर साम्ब सदा शिव शम्भो शङ्करा
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 शम्भो शङ्करा शिव शम्भो शङ्करा
शम्भो शङ्करा शिव शम्भो शङ्करा
शम्भो शङ्कर साम्ब सदा शिव शम्भो शङ्करा
शम्भो शङ्कर साम्ब सदा शिव शम्भो शङ्करा
पर्तिनायका परमेशा पाहि माम्
नायका परमेशा पाहि माम्
पर्तिनायका परमेशा पाहि माम्
नायका परमेशा पाहि माम्
शम्भो शङ्कर साम्ब सदा शिव शम्भो शङ्करा
शम्भो शङ्कर साम्ब सदा शिव शम्भो शङ्करा
शम्भो शङ्कर साम्ब सदा शिव शम्भो शङ्करा
शम्भो शङ्कर साम्ब सदा शिव शम्भो शङ्करा शम्भो शङ्करा शिव शम्भो शङ्करा
शिव महेश्वरा शिव महेश्वरा शिव महेश्वरा साईरा
शिव महेश्वरा शिव महेश्वरा शिव महेश्वरा
महेश्वरा शिव महेश्वरा साई राम
शिव महेश्वरा शिव महेश्वरा शिव महेश्वरा साई राम
शिव महेश्वरा शिव शंकरा शिव महादेवा 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 साई राम
कैलासवासा महादेवा
कैलासवासा महादेवा
कैलासवासा महादेवा
कैलासवासा महादेवा
जगदीश्वर हर महादेवा
जगदीश्वर हर महादेवा
जगदीश्वर हर महादेवा
जगदीश्वर हर महादेवा
त्रिभुवन पाल बाबा साई देवा
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 शिव महेश्वरा शिव महेश्वरा शिव महेश्वरा साई
शिव
राम
महेश्वरा शिव महेश्वरा शिव महेश्वरा साई राम
शिव महेश्वरा शिव शंकरा शिव महादेवा साई राम
शिव महेश्वरा शिव शंकरा शिव महादेवा साई राम
कैलासवासा महादेवा
कैलासवासा महादेवा
जगदीश्वर हर महादेवा
जगदीश्वर हर महादेवा
त्रिभुवन पाल बाबा साई देवा
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 शिव महेश्वरा शिव महेश्वरा शिव महेश्वरा साई राम सर्वधर्म स्वरूपा साई
सर्वधर्म स्वरूपा साई
सर्वधर्म स्वरूपा साई
सर्वधर्म स्वरूपा साई
परती के अवतारा
परती के अवतारा
परती के अवतारा
परती के अवतारा
मेरे बाबा मेरे साई
मेरे बाबा मेरे साई
मेरे बाबा मेरे साई
मेरे बाबा मेरे साई
साई राम साई राम साई राम साई राम
साई राम साई राम साई राम साई राम
साई राम साई राम साई राम साई राम
साई राम साई राम साई राम
हिंदू मुस्लिम ईसाई आते हैं तेरे द्वारे
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 मिल अवतारा,
अवतारा,
मेरे बाबा मेरे साईं,
मेरे बाबा मेरे साईं।
साईं राम साईं राम साईं राम साईं राम,
साईं राम, साईं राम, साईं राम।
हिंदू मुस्लिम ईसाई आते हैं तेरे द्वारे,
हिंदू मुस्लिम ईसाई आते हैं तेरे द्वारे,
मिलते हैं तेरे द्वारे,
तेरे द्वारे।
साईं राम साईं राम साईं राम साईं राम,
साईं राम, साईं राम, साईं राम।
साईं राम साईं राम साईं राम साईं राम,
साईं राम, साईं राम, साईं राम।
सर्वधर्म स्वरूपा साई।
ॐ नमः शिवाय शिवाय नमो, ॐ नमः शिवाय शिवाय नमो,
नमः शिवाय शिवाय नमो, ॐ नमः शिवाय शिवाय नमो,
ॐ नमः शिवाय शिवाय नमो, ॐ नमः शिवाय शिवाय नमो,
नमः शिवाय शिवाय नमो, ॐ नमः शिवाय शिवाय नमो।
शिव शिव हर हर हराय नमो, हर हर शिव शिव शिवाय नमो,
शिव हर हर हराय नमो, हर हर शिव शिव शिवाय नमो।
शिव शिव हर हर हराय नमो, हर हर शिव शिव शिवाय नमो,
शिव शिव हर हर हराय नमो, हर हर शिव शिव शिवाय नमो।
हर हर महादेवा, हर हर महादेवा,
हर हर महादेवा, हर हर महादेवा,
हर हर महादेवा, हर हर महादेवा,
हर हर महादेवा।
Lord Shiva, and we are celebrating Mahashivaratri today. So all Hindus, I hope that everybody is joining us, and we are going to be having a special guest later. So yes, do stay in tune for that.
डम 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 डमरू बाजे, डम 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 डमरू बाजे, धिमितक धिमितक मृदंग बाजे, धिमितक धिमितक मृदंग बाजे, हर हर महादेवा, हर हर महादेवा, हर हर महादेवा, हर हर महादेवा, ॐ नमः शिवाय शिवाय नमो, ॐ नमः शिवाय शिवाय नमो,
नमः शिवाय शिवाय नमो, ॐ नमः शिवाय शिवाय नमो।
शिव शिव हर हर हराय नमो, हर शिवाय नमो
शिव शिव हर हर हराय नमो हर हर शिव शिव शिवाय नमो
हर हर महादेवा हर हर महादेवा
हर हर महादेवा हर हर महादेवा
हर हर महादेवा हर हर महादेवा
हर हर महादेवा
ॐ नमः शिवाय शिवाय नमो ॐ नमः शिवाय शिवाय नमो
ॐ नमः शिवाय शिवाय नमो ॐ नमः शिवाय शिवाय नमो
डम 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 डमरू बाजे
डम डम डमरू बाजे
धिमितक धिमितक मृदंग बाजे
धिमितक मृदंग बाजे
हर हर महादेवा हर हर महादेवा
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 ॐ नमः शिवाय शिवाय नमो ॐ नमः शिवाय शिवाय नमो
Om Namah Shivaya, and that is, the prime source of energy for everybody that worships Lord Shiva, made up of 5 syllables, and we are going to be talking about that later. This morning, we are talking about Lord Shiva himself and his manifestation, and how we see him, and that symbolic form that you see as Lord Nataraja and Lingam, the Lingam, which is a stone that everybody is familiar with if you are a Hindu. But the other representations of Lord Shiva is sometimes represented as half man and half woman, and his figure is split halfway down the body, and one half showing his body, and the second half is that of Mother Parvati, which is the feminine or the female form of Lord Shiva. So, and in that form, he is called Shiv Shakti because we believe that he's half Lord Shiva and half Mother Parvati. The female and male energies and preside in Lord Shiva, in his form. And Shiva is also represented by the Shiva Linga, or the Shiva Lingam, as some people call it, or just the Lingam. And this is a phallic statue representing the raw power of Lord Shiva and his masculinity. And Hindus believe that it represents the seed of the universe, demonstrating Lord Shiva's quality of creation. Worshippers of Lord Shiva celebrate Mahashivaratri, which is this festival today, the 11th of March 2021. Is Mahashivaratri, and many Hindus and friends that are sending around messages wishing everybody a happy Mahashivaratri. What is it? Mahashivaratri is actually a festival. In India, people actually take off for this day because they are not at work and they take leave, and this is a huge festival celebrated the entire night, and Hindus throughout the world will stay up the entire night today and worship Lord Shiva, and there are benefits of that as well. So we are going to be talking about the benefits of Mahashivaratri and staying up the whole night with Professor Pubalan Pillai later on. And let's go on with some music. We are enjoying our bhajans, for Lord Shiva this morning.
Shambho Shankara, Shiva Shambho Shankara.
Shambho Shankara, Shiva Shambho Shankara.
Shambho Shankara, Shiva Shambho शङ्करा
शम्भो शङ्करा शिव शम्भो शङ्करा
शम्भो शङ्कर साम्ब सदा 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 शिव शम्भो शङ्करा
पर्तिनायका परमेशा पाहि
नायका परमेशा पाहि
पर्तिनायका परमेशा पाहि
नायका परमेशा पाहि
पर्तिनायका परमेशा पाहि
नायका परमेशा पाहि
शम्भो शङ्कर साम्ब सदा शिव शम्भो शङ्करा
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 शम्भो शङ्करा शिव शम्भो शङ्करा
शम्भो शङ्करा शिव शम्भो शङ्करा
शम्भो शङ्कर साम्ब सदा शिव शम्भो शङ्करा
शम्भो शङ्कर साम्ब सदा शिव शम्भो शङ्करा
पर्तिनायका परमेशा पाहि
पर्तिनायका परमेशा पाहि
पर्तिनायका परमेशा पाहि
पर्तिनायका परमेशा पाहि
शम्भो शङ्कर साम्ब सदा शिव शम्भो शङ्करा
शम्भो शङ्कर साम्ब सदा शिव शम्भो शङ्करा
शम्भो शङ्कर साम्ब सदा शिव शम्भो शङ्करा
शम्भो शङ्कर साम्ब सदा शिव शम्भो शङ्करा शम्भो शङ्करा शिव शम्भो शङ्करा
अरुणाचल शिव अरुणाचल शिव अरुणाचल शिव अरुण शिवा
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 अक्षयलिङ्गा आत्मलिङ्गा
अक्षयलिङ्गा आत्मलिङ्गा
अक्षयलिङ्गा आत्मलिङ्गा
अक्षयलिङ्गा आत्मलिङ्गा
तेजोमय विग्रहलिङ्गा
तेजोमय विग्रहलिङ्गा
तेजोमय विग्रहलिङ्गा
तेजोमय विग्रहलिङ्गा
इह पर सुखदायका ईशा इह पर सुखदायका
इह पर सुखदायका ईशा इह पर सुखदायका
इह पर सुखदायका साई इह पर सुखदायका
इह पर सुखदायका साई इह पर सुखदायका
अरुणाचल शिव अरुणाचल शिव अरुणाचल शिव अरुण शिवा
अरुणाचल शिव अरुणाचल शिव अरुणाचल शिव अरुण शिवा
अक्षयलिङ्गा आत्मलिङ्गा
अक्षयलिङ्गा आत्मलिङ्गा
तेजोमय विग्रहलिङ्गा
तेजोमय विग्रहलिङ्गा
इह पर सुखदायका ईशा इह पर सुखदायका
इह पर सुखदायका ईशा इह पर सुखदायका
इह पर सुखदायका साई इह पर सुखदायका
इह पर सुखदायका साई इह पर सुखदायका
ॐ नमः शिवाय शिवाय नमः
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 अरुणाचल शिव अरुणाचल शिव अरुणाचल शिव अरुण शिवा
सर्वधर्म स्वरूपा साई
सर्वधर्म स्वरूपा साई
सर्वधर्म स्वरूपा साई
सर्वधर्म स्वरूपा साई
परती के अवतारा
परती के अवतारा
परती के अवतारा
परती के अवतारा
मेरे बाबा मेरे साई मुस्लिम ईसाई आते हैं तेरे द्वारे।
हिंदू मुस्लिम ईसाई आते हैं तेरे द्वारे।
हिंदू मुस्लिम ईसाई आते हैं तेरे द्वारे।
हिंदू मुस्लिम ईसाई आते हैं तेरे द्वारे।
मिलते हैं तेरे द्वारे।
मिलते हैं तेरे द्वारे।
मिलते हैं तेरे द्वारे।
मिलते हैं तेरे द्वारे।
साईं राम साईं राम साईं राम साईं राम।
साईं राम साईं राम साईं राम साईं राम।
साईं राम साईं राम साईं राम साईं राम।
साईं राम साईं राम साईं राम।
सर्वधर्म स्वरूपा साई।
सर्वधर्म स्वरूपा साई।
परती के अवतारा।
के अवतारा।
मेरे बाबा मेरे साई।
मेरे बाबा मेरे साई।
साईं राम साईं राम साईं राम साईं राम।
साईं राम साईं राम साईं राम।
हिंदू मुस्लिम ईसाई आते हैं तेरे द्वारे।
हिंदू मुस्लिम ईसाई आते हैं तेरे द्वारे।
मिलते हैं तेरे द्वारे।
मिलते हैं तेरे द्वारे।
साईं राम साईं राम साईं राम साईं राम।
साईं राम साईं राम साईं राम।
साईं राम साईं राम साईं राम साईं राम।
साईं राम साईं राम साईं राम।
सर्वधर्म स्वरूपा साई।
Welcome to our Shivaratri special Mahashivaratri. It is today, and we are definitely celebrating Shivaratri here as Hindus. And all over the world, millions of Hindus will observe Mahashivaratri today, and especially because he is the Supreme Lord. And I've been, sharing with you who is Lord Shiva and what are his representations. And I'm going to talk about who he is linked with. And Shiva's consort is actually Parvati or Devi or Shakti, as some people know this deity. And the mother goddess Devi or Shakti or Parvati has taken many forms in the past. And one of the forms that is very popular amongst Hindus is Mother Kali, the goddess of death, and Shakti, the goddess of marital felicity. And you also have people referring to her as, Parvati or Shakti, more popularly known as Shakti. But her best known incarnation is Parvati, which is Shiva's eternal consort or wife. And Hindus believe that Lord Shiva and Mother Parvati live in Kailash, in the mountains of the Himalayas. And as you would know, many sages and sadhus travel to the Himalayas to actually sit and meditate and ask for the boon of moksha. And it is only Lord Shiva that can grant the boon of moksha. And what is moksha? Because, moksha is something that many Hindus, millions of Hindus would strive to achieve in this lifetime. Because as you know, Hindus believe in the concept of reincarnation. And when you do believe in the concept of reincarnation, we also believe that you will return over and over and over again to earth after you are dead, you have died, and you will take rebirth on earth in another form, in another place, in another time, to come back and learn life's lessons. And Lord Shiva is the governance. He is the one that oversees everything. And that is why if you don't want to ever come back to earth and have a rebirth on earth, then the Lord to pray to is Lord Shiva. And Hindus will ask him for moksha, which is release from that cycle of life, birth, and life, birth a million times over. So, many sadhus and sages would go to the Himalayas and sit there in the mountains until they have a vision of Lord Shiva. And when they do have a vision of Lord Shiva, that is when they would ask for that boon, that they will never be born back on earth again. Very, very interesting. We are doing, we're covering Mahashivaratri, and, it is well known to all Hindus that today is the day that, Lord Shiva will actually grant boons to his devotees of not being reborn or whatever their desires and wants and needs are. So if you can stay up the whole night and stay upright the whole night without sleeping off, this is for you. And if you're known to have insomnia, well, make the most of it, hey? And you can stay up the whole night. Okay, and we are going to talk a little bit more about Lord Shiva as well, as he is known as the Lord of Dance. So don't go away, stay with us.
देहि विभो साम्ब सदा शिव शम्भो शङ्कर शरणं मे तव चरणयुगम्
साम्ब सदा शिव शम्भो शङ्कर शरणं मे तव चरणयुगम्
भगवन् भर्ग भयापह भूतपते भूतिभूषिताङ्ग विभो साम्ब सदा शिव शम्भो शङ्कर शरणं मे तव चरणयुगम्
साम्ब सदा शिव शम्भो शङ्कर शरणं मे तव चरणयुगम्
सर्वदेव सर्वोत्तम सर्वद दुर्वृत्त गर्वहरण विभो साम्ब सदा शिव शम्भो शङ्कर शरणं मे तव चरणयुगम्
साम्ब सदा शिव शम्भो शङ्कर शरणं मे तव चरणयुगम् ॐ नमः शिवाय ॐ नमः शिवाय ॐ नमः शिवाय ॐ नमः शिवाय ॐ नमः शिवाय
षड्रिपु षडूर्मि षड्विकार हर सन्मुख षण्मुख जनक विभो साम्ब सदा शिव शम्भो शङ्कर शरणं मे तव चरणयुगम्
साम्ब सदा शिव शम्भो शङ्कर शरणं मे तव चरणयुगम्
सत्यं जानमनन्तं ब्रह्मेति तललक्षणलक्षितभो साम्ब सदा शिव शम्भो शङ्कर शरणं मे तव चरणयुगम्
साम्ब सदा शिव शम्भो शङ्कर शरणं मे तव चरणयुगम्
आहा हू मुखसुरगायक गीता पदानपद्य विभो साम्ब सदा शिव शम्भो शङ्कर शरणं मे तव चरणयुगम्
साम्ब सदा शिव शम्भो शङ्कर शरणं मे तव चरणयुगम् ॐ नमः शिवाय 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 ॐ नमः
Welcome. It's Mahashivaratri, and we are celebrating Mahashivaratri today as all Hindus all over the world will be celebrating Lord Shiva's day, and it's an auspicious and highly auspicious day today. And the festival of Mahashivaratri is known throughout the world to bring, to fruition many boons and desires and wants and needs that man will today put forward to Lord Shiva, and hopefully be granted those boons, because it is said that Lord Shiva is most generous on the day of Mahashivaratri, especially if you stay up the whole night and observe and vigil and don't fall off to sleep and stay upright. And that is the rule. That's the only rule. And give him your heart, give him your soul, give him your love, give him your devotion, give him your faith, and connect with him emotionally. That's all he requires to give you his best. And we're talking about Lord Shiva as the Lord of Dance, because he is known to some as the Lord of Dance. He's known to some as the Lingam, in the form of the stone that everybody sees in front of a temple, and is also known as the the form that is always in meditation, and one of the other forms is Lord of Dance, which is Nataraja or Nataraja, as some people may call him. And dance is a very important form or art form in India, and there's classical art forms, Indian classical art forms, and contemporary non-classical dance. And the rhythm of dance is actually a metaphor, for the balance of the universe, according to Hindus, and which Shiva, we believe, and as Hindus believe that he holds so masterfully, and he holds the entire universe in the rhythm of his dance, and he holds the entire balance of the universe in his dance as well. And his most important dance is the Shiva Tandavam, or the Shiva Tandav, and you've heard the bhajans being played, and one of the bhajans that we are playing is the Shiva Tandava Stotram. And Stotram means like a little form of lyrics that is set in poetry, and it is dedicated to Lord Shiva. And his most important dance, as I said, is the Shiva Tandavam, and this is a cosmic dance of death, which he performs at the end of an age to actually destroy an entire universe. And according to one Hindu legend, Shiva almost signaled the end of the universe by performing this Shiva Tandavam dance, and this dangerous, and highly, rhythmic and fast-paced dance. And he actually, danced this Shiva Tandavam, signaling the end of the universe, and, before its time, actually. And this is the story. There's a story behind when he did this dance, and Mother Parvati and Lord Shiva, and it's quite an interesting story. So I'm going to share this with you after a couple songs. And I remember listening to this as a little girl and throughout all Shivaratri festivals. So I'm smiling because, it is said that, when you have a woman in your life, things can get pretty complicated. So Lord Shiva, actually, did fall prey to that kind of, cliche as well. But anyway, we are going to talk about that. So stay in tune. It's a very, very interesting story. And please share this link with everybody, and especially if you have your Hindi friends. Hari Om Namah Shivaya is coming up next.
Hari Om Namah Shivaya. Hari Om Namah Shivaya. Shiva Shiva Shankar Har Parameshwar Saishwaraya Namo. Shiva Shiva Shankar Har Parameshwar Saishwaraya
शिवाय शिवाय नमो ॐ नमः शिवाय शिवाय नमो
नमः शिवाय शिवाय नमो ॐ नमः शिवाय शिवाय नमो
ॐ नमः शिवाय शिवाय नमो ॐ नमः शिवाय शिवाय नमो
नमः शिवाय शिवाय नमो ॐ नमः शिवाय शिवाय नमो
शिव शिव हर हर हराय नमो हर हर शिव शिव शिवाय नमो
शिव शिव हर हर हराय नमो हर हर शिव शिव शिवाय नमो
शिव शिव हर हर हराय नमो हर हर शिव शिव शिवाय नमो
शिव शिव हर हर हराय नमो हर हर शिव शिव शिवाय नमो
हर हर महादेवा हर हर महादेवा
हर हर महादेवा हर हर महादेवा
हर हर महादेवा हर हर महादेवा
हर हर महादेवा
ॐ नमः शिवाय शिवाय नमो ॐ नमः शिवाय शिवाय नमो
ॐ नमः शिवाय शिवाय नमो ॐ नमः शिवाय शिवाय नमो
डम 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 डमरू बाजे
डम डम डमरू बाजे
डम 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 डमरू बाजे
डमरू बाजे
धिमितक धिमितक मृदंग बाजे
धिमितक मृदंग बाजे
धिमितक धिमितक मृदंग बाजे
धिमितक मृदंग बाजे
हर हर महादेवा हर हर महादेवा
हर हर महादेवा हर हर महादेवा
हर हर महादेवा हर हर महादेवा
हर हर महादेवा
ॐ नमः शिवाय शिवाय नमो ॐ नमः शिवाय शिवाय नमो
ॐ नमः शिवाय शिवाय नमो ॐ नमः शिवाय शिवाय नमो
शिव शिव हर हर हराय नमो हर हर शिव शिव शिवाय नमो
शिव शिव हर हर हराय नमो हर हर शिव शिव शिवाय नमो
हर हर महादेवा हर हर महादेवा
हर हर महादेवा हर हर महादेवा
हर हर महादेवा हर हर महादेवा
And welcome to our Mahashivaratri program today. And I just hope that you are joining me in the studio a little later on, as well as we interview Professor Pubalan Pillai, who's going to join us and, talk about the spiritual significance and the relevance of the significance of Shivaratri or Mahashivaratri for all Hindus today. And we celebrate Mahashivaratri tonight, most specifically, and millions of Hindus all over the world will be actually staying up to, observe this great and, massive event. And we're talking about Lord Shiva as Nataraja, or Nadaraja as the Lord of Dance. And many know him as Lord Nataraja or Nadaraja. And, we are talking about, the significance of the dance itself, which is the Shiva Tandavam. And the Shiva Tandavam, is, which Lord Shiva performs most masterfully, is the most important of all dances. It is the cosmic dance of death, and it can signal the end of a universe. And we were saying that there's a story around the Shiva Tandavam, and it is a long story, so I'm going to share it between songs as we play out on the songs. But it goes like this. One day the father of goddess Mother Shakti decided to hold a prayer ceremony, and at this prayer ceremony, all the gods would be invited and offerings would be made to them. But, Shiva had actually married Lord Mother Parvati or Mother Shakti against the wishes of her father, and he was not invited to this massive prayer event. And Shakti was deeply offended on behalf of her husband because, she got angry, and she actually prayed intensely, and she jumped into the sacred fire that was burning on the day of the ceremony in her anger. And during this time, Shiva had been in the midst of deep meditation. So in all, woman and female glory of, showing anger, Shakti jumped into this fire, and Lord Shiva, whilst in deep meditation, he awoke, in such shock and in great anger, realizing what his wife had done. And the story becomes less certain at this point, but it is believed that Shiva started the cosmic dance of death because he was so angry about this whole thing. And the whole universe was about to be destroyed before it was time for the universe to be destroyed. And the gods who were present at the prayer ceremony were very, very concerned about this. And, and in order to pacify Lord Shiva, they scattered the ashes of Shakti all over him, and because she had burnt to ash. And this did the trick, and he calmed down and did not complete the dance, but he went into meditation for many, many years, deeply upset over the death of his wife, ignoring all his worldly and godly duties as well. So it was not until Shakti was reborn as Parvati that Shiva finally came out of this meditation, because his love of his life had returned. And through her love and her patience, she taught him about family life and the importance of moderation. And, Shiva and Parvati are held up as a perfect example of marital bliss by many Hindus, and one is that is rarely depicted without the other. And it just goes to show the extent of Mother Shakti's sacrifice for her husband, and especially, showing her loyalty and her faith to her husband when her father refused to, invite him to this prayer ceremony that was held by her father. So we are going to be talking about the significance of Vibhuti as well when I come back after our lovely music this morning. I hope that all of you are being spiritually uplifted with our Shiva bhajans. Shivam Mahadevan Vavasukhi is coming on next.
కొండాలు ఏలేటోడా అట్టపొట్టు శంకరుడా చోర పట్టుకొని తిరిగేటోడా జగాలను గాసంగముడా కంఠాన గరళాన్ని దాసినోడా కంటి చూపుతో సృష్టిని నడిపేటోడా ఆది అంతాలు లేనివాడా అండ పిండ బ్రహ్మాండాలు నిండినోడా నాగభరణుడా నంది వాహనుడా కేదారి నాదుడా కాశీ విశ్వేశ్వరుడా భీమశంకర ఓంకారేశ్వర శ్రీకాళేశ్వర మహారాజ రాజేశ్వర కొండాలు ఏలేటోడా అట్టపొట్టు శంకరుడా చోలె పట్టుకొని తిరిగేటోడా జగాలను గాసె జంగముడా కంఠాన గరళాన్ని దాసినోడా కంటి చూపుతో సృష్టిని నడిపేటోడా ఆది అంతాలు లేనివాడా అండపిండ బ్రహ్మాండాలు నిండినోడా పాలకాయ కొట్టేరే పాయసాలు వండేరే పప్పు బెల్లం కలిపి పలారాలు పంచేరే గంట దీపాలు ఘనముగా వెలిగించేరే గండాలు పాపమని పప్పతులు పట్టేరే లింగన రూపాయి తంబన కోడెను పట్టిన వారికి సుట్టానివే తడి పట్ట తానాలు గుడి చుట్టూ దండాలు మొక్కిన వారికి దిక్కునివే యములాడ రాజన్న శ్రీశైలం మల్లన్న ఏ పేరున పిలిచిన గాని పలికేటి దేవుడవే కోరితే కొడుకులనిచ్చి అడిగితే ఆడబిడ్డలనిచ్చే తీరు తీరు పూజలనుందే మా ఇంటి దేవుడవే ఎన్ని కొండాలు ఏలేటోడా అట్టపొట్టు శంకరుడా చోలె పట్టుకొని తిరిగేటోడా జగాలను గాసె జంగముడా కంఠాన గరళాన్ని దాసినోడా కంటి చూపుతో సృష్టిని నడిపేటోడా ఆది అంతాలు లేనివాడా అండపిండ బ్రహ్మాండాలు నిండినోడా నీ ఆకలేనిదే చీమైన గుట్టదే నరులకు అందని నీ లీలలు చేర్చాలులే పప్పులో గంగమ్మ పక్కన పార్వతమ్మ ఇద్దరు సతుల ముద్దుల ముక్కంటేశ్వరుడవే నీదొక్క పొద్దులు దండి నైవేద్యాలు మనసారా నీ ముందు పెట్టినమే కైలాసవాసుడా కరుణాల దేవుడా కరుణించమని నిన్ను వేడుకుంటామే త్రిలోక పూజుడా త్రిశూలధారుడా పంచభూతాలకు అధిపతివి నీవురా శరణని కొలిచిన వరములనిచ్చేదరా అభిషేక ప్రియుడా అద్వైత భాస్కరుడా దేవాను దేవుళ్ళు మెచ్చినోడా ఒప్పు జప్పుల పూజలు అందినోడా అనంత జీవకోటి లేనినోడా నీవు ఆత్మలింగాని మాయలోడా కోటి లింగాల దర్శనమిచ్చేటోడా కురవై వీరన్న వైదరికి చేరినోడా నటరాజ నాట్యాలు ఆడేటోడా నాకు పామును మెడ చుట్టూ సుట్టినోడా నాగభరణుడా నంది వాహనుడా కేదారి నాదుడా కాశీ విశ్వేశ్వరుడా భీమశంకర ఓంకారేశ్వర శ్రీకాళేశ్వర మహారాజ రాజేశ్వర ఎన్ని కొండాలు ఏలేటోడా అట్టపొట్టు శంకరుడా చోలె పట్టుకొని తిరిగేటోడా జగాలను గాసె జంగముడా కంఠాన గరళాన్ని దాసినోడా కంటి చూపుతో సృష్టిని నడిపేటోడా ఆది అంతాలు లేనివాడా అండపిండ బ్రహ్మాండాలు నిండినోడా కొండాలు ఏలేటోడా అట్టపొట్టు శంకరుడా చోలె పట్టుకొని తిరిగేటోడా జగాలను గాసె జంగముడా కంఠాన గరళాన్ని దాసినోడా కంటి చూపుతో సృష్టిని నడిపేటోడా ఆది అంతాలు లేనివాడా అండపిండ బ్రహ్మాండాలు నిండినోడా నాగభరణుడా నంది వాహనుడా కేదారి సృష్టిని నడిపేటోడా ఆది అంతాలు లేనివాడా అండపిండ బ్రహ్మాండాలు నిండినోడా పాలకాయ కొట్టేరే పాయసాలు వండేరే పప్పు బెల్లం కలిపి పలారాలు పంచేరే గండ దీపాలు ఘనముగా వెలిగించేరే గండాలు పాపమని పప్పతులు పట్టేరే లింగన రూపాయి తంపన కోడెను కట్టిన వారికి సుట్టానివే తడిపట్ట తానాలు గుడి చుట్టూ దండాలు మొక్కిన వారికి దిక్కునివే యములాడ రాజన్న శ్రీశైలం మల్లన్న ఏ పేరున పిలిచిన గాని పలికేటి దేవుడవే కోరితే కొడుకులనిచ్చి అడిగితే ఆడబిడ్డలనిచ్చే తీరు పూజలనుందే మా ఇంటి దేవుడవే ఎన్ని కొండాలు ఏలేటోడా అట్టపొట్టు శంకరుడా జోల పట్టుకొని తిరిగేటోడా జగాలను గాస గంగముడా కంఠాన గరళాన్ని దాసినోడా కంటి చూపుతో సృష్టిని నడిపేటోడా ఆది అంతాలు లేనివాడా అండపిండ బ్రహ్మాండాలు నిండినోడా నీ అందలేనిదే చీమైన గుట్టదే నరులకు అందని నీ లీలలు చిత్రాలులే పప్పులో గంగమ్మ పక్కన పార్వతమ్మ ఇద్దరు సతుల ముద్దుల ముక్కంటేశ్వరుడవే నిండొక్క పొద్దులు దండి నైవేద్యాలు మనసారా నీ ముందు పెట్టినమే కైలాసవాసుడా కరుణాల దేవుడా కరుణించమని నిన్ను వేడుకుంటామే త్రిలోక పూజుడా త్రిశూలధారుడా పంచభూతాలకు అధిపతివి నీవురా శరణని కొలిచిన వరములనిచ్చేదరా అభిషేక ప్రియుడా అద్వైత భాస్కరుడా దేవాను దేవుళ్ళు మెచ్చినోడా ఒప్పు చెప్పుల పూజలు అందినోడా అనంత జీవకోటి లేనినోడా నీవు ఆత్మలింగాని మాయలోడా కోటి లింగాల దర్శనమిచ్చేటోడా కురవై వీరన్న వైదరికి చేరినోడా నటరాజ నాట్యాలు ఆడేటోడా నాకు పామును మెడ చుట్టూ చుట్టినోడా నాగభరణుడా నంది వాహనుడా కేదారినాథుడా కాశీ విశ్వేశ్వరుడా భీమశంకర ఓంకారేశ్వర శ్రీకాళేశ్వర మహారాజ రాజేశ్వర ఎన్ని కొండాలు ఏలేటోడా అడ్డపొట్టు శంకరుడా జోల పట్టుకొని తిరిగేటోడా జగాలను గాస జంగముడా కంఠాన గరళాన్ని దాసినోడా కంటి చూపుతో సృష్టిని నడిపేటోడా ఆది అంతాలు లేనివాడా అండపిండ బ్రహ్మాండాలు నిండినోడా
शिव महेश्वरा शिव महेश्वरा शिव महेश्वरा साईरा
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 शिव महेश्वरा शिव शंकरा शिव महादेवा साईरा
शिव महेश्वरा शिव शंकरा शिव महादेवा साईरा
शिव महेश्वरा शिव शंकरा शिव महादेवा साईरा
शिव महेश्वरा शिव शंकरा शिव महादेवा
साई देवा त्रिभुवन पाल बाबा साई देवा शिव महेश्वरा शिव महेश्वरा शिव महेश्वरा साई राम
महेश्वरा शिव महेश्वरा शिव महेश्वरा साई राम
शिव महेश्वरा शिव शंकरा शिव महादेवा साई राम
शिव महेश्वरा शिव शंकरा शिव महादेवा साई राम
कैलासवासा महादेवा
कैलासवासा महादेवा
जगदीश्वर हर महादेवा
जगदीश्वर हर महादेवा
त्रिभुवन पाल बाबा साई देवा
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 शिव महेश्वरा शिव महेश्वरा शिव महेश्वरा साई राम
हरि ओम नमः शिवाय हरि ओम नमः शिवाय शिव शिव शंकर हर परमेश्वर साईश्वराय नमः
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 हरि ओम नमः शिवाय
नमः शिवाय
शिव शिव शंकर हर परमेश्वर साईश्वराय नमः
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 हरि ओम नमः शिवाय सर्वधर्म स्वरूपा साई
सर्वधर्म स्वरूपा साई
सर्वधर्म स्वरूपा साई
सर्वधर्म स्वरूपा साई
परती के अवतारा
परती के अवतारा
परती के अवतारा
परती के अवतारा
मेरे बाबा मेरे साई
मेरे
साई राम साई राम
साई राम साई राम साई राम
साई राम साई राम साई राम साई राम
साई राम साई राम साई राम
हिंदू मुस्लिम ईसाई आते हैं तेरे द्वारे
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 मिलते हैं तेरे द्वारे
मिलते हैं तेरे द्वारे
मिलते हैं तेरे द्वारे
मिलते हैं तेरे द्वारे
साई राम साई राम साई राम साई राम
साई राम साई राम साई राम साई राम
साई राम साई राम साई राम साई राम साई राम
साई राम साई राम
सर्वधर्म स्वरूपा साई
सर्वधर्म स्वरूपा साई
परती के अवतारा
के अवतारा
मेरे बाबा मेरे साई
मेरे बाबा मेरे साई
साई राम साई राम साई राम साई राम
साई राम साई राम साई राम
हिंदू मुस्लिम ईसाई आते हैं तेरे द्वारे
हिंदू मुस्लिम ईसाई आते हैं तेरे द्वारे
मिलते हैं तेरे द्वारे
मिलते हैं तेरे द्वारे
साई राम साई राम साई राम साई राम
साई राम साई राम साई राम
साई राम साई राम साई राम साई राम
साई राम साई राम साई राम
सर्वधर्म स्वरूपा साई
Good morning again, and if you have joined us, welcome, welcome, welcome to the studio. We are celebrating in great pomp and ceremony today, the Mahashivaratri. Millions of Hindus all over the world will be observing Mahashivaratri tonight and trying to stay up against falling off to sleep. And if you are one of those who are insomniac, then that's a great boon for you, because you would definitely be able to stay up the whole night. But as I promised, we have in the studio here with me Professor Pubalan Pillai, and Professor Pubalan Pillai is joining me today to actually help me with my task of explaining to you about Mahashivaratri and the significance, especially the spiritual significance, and perhaps we should also know how it translates, or how it is relevant to us in today, especially with COVID times, and maybe we should look at that as well, especially for our youth. But Professor Pubalan Pillai, welcome to our studio here at Capital Radio, and thank you very much for taking time off your busy schedule to be with us today. Professor Pubalan Pillai is Emeritus Professor of Mathematics at UKZN and a devotee, ardent devotee of Sri Swami Sivananda and Sri Swami Sahajananda, and we are very, very privileged to have him here today with us. And we will be, posing some questions to him, and he will be, hopefully giving us some very simple explanations as to how we could relate to Mahashivaratri today. So, Professor Pubalan, welcome to our studio.
I'm very glad to be here, Indra, and thank you very much for inviting me.
You're welcome. It is a pleasure. And, we should actually look at the significance of Mahashivaratri. So you are going to help us a little bit with that. And my first question, goes out to you. And it is, why is Lord Shiva regarded as the ultimate representation of God with Hindus?
Yes, Indra, I think perhaps I should say that I was born into a family dance, and as a cosmic dancer, he is known as Nadaraja. You know that Nada means dance, and Raja is the king, so he is the king of all dancers.
Yes, we just explained about Lord Nadaraja and the Shivatandavam just now, so I'm glad you're elaborating on that.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, you probably must have mentioned that every atom in the whole cosmos is dancing to a particular rhythm and frequency.
Yes.
And this is represented by this cosmic dance. Mm-hmm. While we're on that the dancer, the aspect of Nadaraja was actually alluded to by that famed TV personality called Carl Sagan in his documentary Cosmos. And in it, he explains the meaning of the two gestures with the two hands. One holds a damaru. The damaru is a drum, and the significance of the damaru is that it represents sound. And the Hindus believe that originally there was sound, and Brahma manifested as the Om Pranava. So the Om is regarded as the primal sound which pervades right throughout the universe, and there have been lots of experiments to verify that. And so on the other hand, he holds a flame, and the flame, is the symbol of fire. So you have the Om, which is the sound, which is creation, and on the other hand, is got the fire, which represents destruction, because it says that I created and I will also destroy the entire universe. Everything is in His hands, and there is nothing that we do. Everything is done by God. So that's just the explanation of the two symbols in Lord Shiva's dance while he is posing in the form of a dancer. And that one leg is raised and the finger is pointing to that leg, which means if you want liberation, attain my feet.
Okay, so we are going to be talking in between our bhajans that we are doing this morning for Mahashivaratri, and specifically for Lord Shiva, the cosmic dancer. And, he is the supreme form of Lord. And if you, want your boons to be granted, it is said that Lord Shiva is in his generous form. Generosity is oozing from him today. So there you go, if you want to have your boons and desires, all issued. This is the day. And thank you so much, Professor Pubalan, for explaining that, significance there. I think I'm going to be listening to some bhajans, as we go along. So there we go. Bo Shamba, Shambho Shiva. Shambho is going to come up by Rahul now.
सुमुखं त्रिनेत्रं जटाधरं पार्वती वामभागं चिदम्बरेशं हृदि भावयामि हृदि भावयामि 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 भो शम्भो शिव शम्भो स्वयम्भो 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 गङ्गाधर शङ्करा करुणाकरा मामव भवसागर तारका गङ्गाधर शङ्करा करुणाकरा मामव भवसागर तारका ओ शम्भो शिव शम्भो स्वयम्भो ओ शम्भो शिव शम्भो स्वयम्भो निर्गुण परब्रह्म स्वरूप घम घम भूता प्रपञ्चरहिता 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 निज गुहनिहित नितान्त अनन्ता निज गुहनिहित नितान्त अनन्ता आनन्द अतिशय अक्षयलिङ्गा निज गुहनिहित नितान्त अनन्ता आनन्द अतिशय अक्षयलिङ्गा वो शम्भो शिव शम्भो स्वयम्भो वो शम्भो शिव शम्भो स्वयम्भो धिमित धिमित धिमि धिमि किट किट तोम तोम तरि किट किट तो मतंग मुनिवर वंद
we are talking this morning and interviewing Professor Pubalan Pillai, who is helping us to understand the significance and spiritual significance of Lord Shiva, and a little bit about, why Lord Shiva, looks like he does, and there's certain attire associated with Lord Shiva as well, and we looking at that and the significance of Mahashivaratri as such. And Professor Pubalan, you explained, a little bit about Lord Shiva and regarded, and we regard him as the ultimate, representation of God. Can you please share and enlighten us, in a picture of Lord Shiva, you see that the water sprouts from his head. Many people have questions about the different things about him, like his throat is blue and his eyes are half closed. And what is the meaning of these images or behind these images?
Yes, Indra, you started off by saying he's the ultimate reality. And perhaps I should say, even before answering your question, something about the lingam. The lingam, as all Sabha devotees know, has got a very specific shape, and its shape is really shapeless because it represents the formless being. The Lord Shiva cannot be described in any language, and there is also the representation of silence in the shape or in the form of the lingam, where he represents the ultimate, the silent witness who watches the entire world play. As we believe in Hinduism, that he is the unmanifested and Mahashakti is the manifested universe. So he's, as I said earlier, he's a substratum of all existence. Interestingly enough, there are people who would use the ignorant people who are bent on undermining the glory of Hinduism by considering the lingam as a phallus symbol. In fact, it is a fallacy to say it's a phallus symbol. It is just an effort made by people who try to undermine the religion, to bring in that aspect, which is definitely not anywhere in our scriptures. Carl Sagan, the great, I mentioned this earlier, because of his documentary, one of the greatest research centers in particle physics in the world is at CERN in Switzerland, and at the entrance of CERN there is a whole statue of Lord Shiva in his dancing, in his pose as Nadaraja. Now, to get back to your question, Indra, the water seems sprouting from his head looks like a rather unusual picture of anybody. The significance of that is there's a beautiful story that is associated with Mother Ganga, and she is the Divine Mother, one of the forms of the Divine Mother. And when the time came, she wanted to descend on earth, but the power of her descent was so enormous that the earth would not have been able to take it. It would have probably wobbled on its axis. So they appealed to Lord Shiva to accept the fall of the water, and that's when the water from Brahma's his little pot, it came where Ganga was resident. That water came down into Lord Shiva's head, and he was able to accept it. The blueness of the throat. There's another interesting story that is given in the Puranas, and that is where the demons and the asuras and the devas, the gods, they, in one of those rare combinations, they got together and they churned the ocean of milk to get the nectar, the amrita, or the ambrosia. But in doing that, before the nectar came up, there was very strong fumes, poison, and then Lord Shiva, he saved them by drinking that poison, and the poison got stuck in his throat, and that's why his throat is blue, and he's called Nilakanda, blue-throated one. Yeah, on that same score, when the meaning of that is when we churn ourselves, when we try to become, pure and try to move towards God, a lot of poison emanates. You have to destroy that poison, which is in the form of various jealousy and anger and all those things. And then thereafter, we would get the nectar, the ambrosia. One last thing, you asked about the eyes being closed.
Yes.
Yeah, the eyes actually half closed. My own interpretation of that is that Lord Shiva, in the one hand, is the unmanifested absolute, and he is just a silent witness, and he meditates. So his eyes are closed, but his eyes are also open because he knows everything that is happening in the world, from every moment, from every the total awareness, showing the open eyes, and the total meditative aspect of Lord Shiva with his eyes half closed.
Okay, thank you so much. You put it very, very, simply so that everybody can understand it, and usually people are very reluctant and intimidated, I must say, when they open up huge books, and they need to read about Hinduism, especially the Mahabharata and the Bhagavad Gita, and they look at it and say, am I supposed to read this to understand Hinduism? And where in the sea of words are you going to go and really find that particular, verse that explains all that? And many of our, people who worship Lord Shiva, and in Hindus, generally, it's very hard to actually find resources, to specifically answer these questions. But thank you very much for that. And we'll come back to more questions with you regarding the significance of Shivratri as well. And we're going back to our music right now, and we are going to be listening to Om Namah Shivaya Vande Guru Parambaram by Kuldeep Mpai. So enjoy this.
शिवाय ओम नमः शिवाय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय
ओम नमः शिवाय ओम नमः शिवाय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय
ओम नमः शिवाय ओम नमः शिवाय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय
ओम नमः शिवाय ओम नमः शिवाय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय
ओम नमः शिवाय ओम नमः शिवाय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय
ओम नमः शिवाय ओम नमः शिवाय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय
ओम नमः शिवाय ओम नमः शिवाय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय
ओम नमः शिवाय ओम नमः शिवाय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय
ओम नमः शिवाय ओम नमः शिवाय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय
ओम नमः शिवाय ओम नमः शिवाय हर हर भोले नमः
महाकालेश्वराय महाकालेश्वराय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय
महाकालेश्वराय महाकालेश्वराय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय
महाकालेश्वराय महाकालेश्वराय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय सोमेश्वराय शिव सोमेश्वराय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय
ॐ सोमेश्वराय शिव सोमेश्वराय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय
ॐ नमः शिवाय ॐ नमः शिवाय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय
ॐ नमः शिवाय ॐ नमः शिवाय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय
ॐ नमः शिवाय ॐ नमः शिवाय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय
ॐ नमः शिवाय ॐ नमः शिवाय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय
जटाधराय शिव जटाधराय 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 हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय ॐ नमः शिवाय ॐ नमः शिवाय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय ॐ नमः शिवाय ॐ नमः शिवाय हर हर भोले नमः
Welcome again, and if you just joined us, it's not too late. Even now, we are still, investigating, the meaning and just exploring meanings of, Shivratri and everything that we Hindus believe in with Shivratri. And we have Professor Pubalan Pillai with us this morning, who's taken off time from his busy schedule to explain the significance specifically of, Shivratri, Mahashivratri. I do believe that I actually learned this, that there were actually 12 Shivratris in the year, but Mahashivratri is the one that falls today, the 11th of March. Can you explain or elaborate a little bit about the significance of Mahashivratri, please?
Yes, thanks for that question, Indra. It's I would try to explain it in the way Swami Sivananda has explained it in his book called Hindu Fasts and Festivals. Well, firstly, Sivaratri literally means the night of Lord Shiva. And it is a time of austerity and penance for devotees because it is a vrata. In other words, it's a penance, it's a vow. Unlike Deepavali, which falls in a different category, because that is a festival. But Sivaratri is not a festival. It is a time for reflection, and people fast during the entire day. The devotees, the true devotees of Lord Shiva, fast, and they stay awake the whole night. So it is an offering to the Lord in the form of a penance. Now, the story goes that there was a king called Chitrabhanu who, on this particular day, which usually falls between in the second half of February and the first half of March, On this particular day, he was observing a fast. And there was a great sage at that time called Ashtavakra. I think some of you would know that sage he was visiting Chitrabhanu at that time, and he asked him, what are you observing? Why are you observing this fast? And then Chitrabhanu told him, Chitrabhanu had the ability to remember his past lives. And he said, in one of his lives, he was a hunter named Suswara. And as a hunter, he needed to feed his family, and he went into the jungle to try to get some meat for his family. He managed to kill a deer, but by that time, it had become dark, and he decided not to go home because it was too late, and so he decided to spend the night in the jungle. But to protect himself, he climbed up a tree, which happened to be a bael tree. We call it bael in English, but in Tamil it's called Vilva. And the Vilva Lingam is also one of the names of Lord Shiva. And the Vilva tree, he climbed up there, but he was very tired, and in order to keep awake, he plucked the leaves from the tree and just threw them down, counting them as he went along, to keep himself awake. But then he thought of his family, who would be very worried about him, and he shed copious tears in their memory. And anyway, after all that, he came down from the tree and took his prize home to his family. And the story goes that at the time of dying, Lord Yama took him straight to the abode of Lord Shiva. And when he investigated that, he found that the night on which he was there in the forest was the most sacred night for Lord Shiva. It was the night of Sivaratri. And the bael leaves are his favorite leaves. They are three-pronged leaves which represent all the three gunas or many of the other three things that the Hindus believe in. And the offering of the leaves is very, very precious. Even today in all the temples, the devotees will offer bael leaves to the lingam. So that is the story behind it. There is an esoteric significance to this. The hunter represents man, and he was suddenly thrust into the jungle, and the jungle represents the fourfold mind, subconscious mind, intellect, ego, and the conscious mind. And the animals that he had killed that night were the animals of lust, anger, greed, jealousy, and so on. So it also represents the movement of man towards the divine, and in doing so, you practice all these penances. Indra, I think just before I answer this, you wanted me to speak on something regarding the chants,
Yes, specifically, recently there has been a lot of hype about the Om Triambaka mantra and chants, pertaining to Lord Shiva and worship. Can you maybe elaborate on one or two of that? And especially Om Namah Shivaya?
Yes. Well, actually, the divine name in any form, whether it is, oh Lord Jesus, have mercy upon me, or Om Namah Shivaya, or Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Hari Om. There are many, many forms of the divine name, but the Panchakshara, the 5-syllabled Om Namah Shivaya, is recited throughout the temples around the world tonight, and it creates a tremendously powerful vibration. And you just heard the beautiful chant by Kuldeep Pai on the different names of Om Namah Shivaya. It is given in the scriptures, especially in the Shiva Puran, and the part of the Shiva Puran which deals with the 63 Nayanmar saints, how the Nayanmar saints, they worship Lord Shiva through his name, and that name was very, very powerful, and numerous examples of great miracles which were performed, even bringing the dead back to life, just with the power of the name itself. Chanting the name incessantly is the goal of all Hindus. By saying incessantly, it means 24 hours. Like Gandhiji used to chant all the time. But the Om Triambaka mantra, which is also called the Mahamrityunjaya mantra, that has got very particular significance. Because it is a mantra dedicated to Lord Shiva, and it actually is, in its translation, I can't remember exactly the translation, but it speaks about the breaking, the movement of the cucumber away from the tree, which signifies the bondage that man has with Lord Shiva, and the eventual merging of man with the ultimate feet of Lord Shiva. And in that particular prayer has got a very, very powerful impact, especially for people who are very sick. And we normally chant the Om Triyambaka mantra 108 times for people who are very ill in bed. And during COVID times, people, especially in the society which I belong to, the Divine Life Society, people are chanting the Om Triyambaka mantra many, many times. The devotees were all urged to do that. So there's a great power in the mantra itself. It contains a seed which is extremely powerful.
Oh, thank you for that. And whilst we're on, the chants, maybe we should, at the same time, look at the names, in the various names given to Lord Shiva, and what can you tell us about that?
Yes, there are a number of names. In fact, if you look at the Sanskrit names for Lord Shiva, they have 108 names which were just selected. But even the Divine Mother has got 1,008 names. So there are many, many names. But the names that we are familiar with are like Shankara, Bolanath, I mentioned Nilakanda, Siva Peruman, Mahalingam, the great Lingam, Mahadevan. Of course, the Mahadevan, sometimes, you say, Hara Hara Mahadev. In all the epics, you will see people praise Lord Shiva before they get into war. And Hara, while I'm on that, Hara is the sound that is associated with Lord Shiva. Hari is with Lord Vishnu, and Haro is with Muruga. They say Haro Hara.
Okay.
And Hari Om is a greeting which says, Lord Hari, who is dwelling in you, I greet you in the name of Om. So Hara represents Lord Shiva. And of course, the other names like Nadarajan, Parameshwaran, Pashupati, and so on.
Okay, thank you so much for that. And whilst we're just about to finish now, we got a few minutes left, and I'm sure actually that you would like to extend a message out to all our listeners on Capital, we're listening in, and a message about Shivaratri, and we can finish off with that if there's anything left for you to say about that.
Yes, Indra, I think what is important is that we as human beings must appreciate that we have a much greater purpose in life, quite different from what we do, daily mundane things, going to work and eating and sleeping and so on. And the human existence, the human form, the human birth that we have taken is the highest birth of all. It says so in the scriptures. So we must use this form, this particular form, to move towards the divine, move towards God. And you have all these festivals, Diwali and Shivaratri and Navaratri and so on. Every one of these gives man the opportunity to make that movement towards God, good, and move away from evil, devil. So it is each time, whenever we have this opportunity, we do whatever you do in the name of God, no matter how small it is. You say that you do it in the name of God, and you have to remember that the whole purpose of human existence is to eventually merge with God, to attain God, to realize God in His fullness, to realize that we are divine. We are essentially divine. All human beings are divinity incarcerated in this body. And the soul is a tremendous source of energy, and that God is acting through us at every moment. The other day I was reading that there are 30 trillion neuron cells in the brain. 30 trillion. A trillion is 10 to the power of 12. It's got 12 zeros around it. And then as I talk, those neurons are busy interacting with each other to say the things that I am saying. We're not in control. So God is totally in control, and we must remember that He is controlling everything within us, and therefore it is our bounden duty to move towards Him and use our lives to get closer and closer to Him so that we reach that perfection which is represented by Savahud, which is Sivam.
Okay, thank you. That actually, sums up Hinduism and sums up a purpose, for being on earth, I think, more or less, and that's a good way to end it, because, many of us are, caught up in our mundane, humdrum life here, and just wondering, it's just a routine from day to night and sunset, sunrise, and what is the purpose of all this? We can't just be here for just, living that kind of mundane existence, but putting it in the way you have, and in many cases, I'm hearing more and more people saying that, I'm His instrument, and that's exactly, I think, the essence of what you are saying. That
Exactly.
that you are eventually and essentially and ultimately God's instrument on earth, and we aren't put here just for a purpose for ourselves and solely to act for ourselves and selfish motives, but we are indeed put here on earth to serve and love and give and give and give and give until you have no more to give, and that's the principle and the essence of living, and living in a dharmic state, always, and helping others and never hurt others. That's another principle as well. Very, very, a big thank you to you for joining us today, and I'm sure it's you've taken time off your busy schedule. So on behalf of everybody in Capital here, we want to thank you very much for joining us, and we'd like to thank our listeners as well. For staying, with me for 3 hours and listening to our Divine Bhajans for this morning. A very, very different program from the normal, from the normal jaibi music that we have on All Things Considered with me. And we would hope that you return, at some other stage and some other festival, Hindu festival, that, we can also call you back for some, good explanations and simple explanations. I think it boils down to, and you would also agree that, to make everything simple so that even our children, our youth can take messages forth into their lives. That's the most important thing. But thank you very much for joining me, for my show, All Things Considered, and I hope to see you again tomorrow at 9 a.m. Oh, we hear from you on WhatsApp and all your message systems. But, I hope you enjoyed it, and I want to wish everybody a happy Shivratri, a blessed Shivratri, and I do hope that, your blessings bring you, lots and lots and lots of peace and joy and happiness and favor for the rest of your life. And as I explained earlier, it's all about moksha. It's all about striving towards never to be ever repeating this birth of cycle, death, birth and death cycle. And we're explaining about the sages and the Himalayas and what have you. So, let us all work towards that. And I want to wish you a peaceful Mahashivaratri and lots of cups of coffee to stay awake as well. And yes, anything else that you want to add to that, Professor Bhubalan?
Yeah, yes, Indra, I think it's very important to ask our listeners to spend this evening in contemplation. There are many ways of doing that. There are lots of online channels where people are celebrating Sivaratri. Use this evening to sit in and listen and imbibe the great vibrations that are coming from all over the world.
Thank you very much for those final words, and I would, 100% behind that. if you can join in, and there are many messages being shared on WhatsApp, and if you want to zone in and hone in onto a link that can take you into an all-night observance of Mahashivratri, do WhatsApp me on 0654211380. That is the studio number. Let me repeat that. It's 0654211380, and you can ask for the link that will allow you to stay up and sing and partake in all the mantras that is offered for Lord Shiva tonight. And from me, Ini, goodbye, and I wish that all of you have a peaceful and happy night. Okay.
కొండాలు ఏలేటోడా అట్టపొట్టు శంకరుడా జోల పట్టుకొని తిరిగేటోడా జగాలను గాసె జంగముడా కంఠాన గరళాన్ని దాసినోడా కంటి చూపుతో సృష్టిని నడిపేటోడా ఆది అంతాలు లేనివాడా అండపిండ బ్రహ్మాండాలు నిండినోడా నాగభరణుడా నంది వాహనుడా కేదారి నాదుడా కాశీ విశ్వేశ్వరుడా భీమ శంకర ఓంకారేశ్వర శ్రీకాళేశ్వర మహారాజ రాజేశ్వర కొండాలు ఏలేటోడా అట్టపొట్టు శంకరుడా జోల పట్టుకొని తిరిగేటోడా జగాలను గాసె జంగముడా కంఠాన గరళాన్ని దాసినోడా కంటి చూపుతో సృష్టిని నడిపేటోడా